Okay, so sorry for the audio. I have to say that every single video because I'm not really editing the videos. I don't really edit videos. It's not my thing. But I also, I like to sit by the window while I do these. Sometimes you can hear cars outside. Sometimes you can hear things that's happening inside my kitchen or the living room or bedroom, wherever I'm at. And I'm just sorry for the background noise. But this is a video about a theory that I have. A theory that has been, in my opinion, in the works for the last 3 years. Or since the Super Bowl. Since the Super Bowl against the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, now back around that Super Bowl, Jimmy Garoppolo was traded that season, and there was a lot of speculations that the Super Bowl was somewhat sabotaged by Bill Belichick, and I even reaffirmed that theory by saying that when I watched that game, the lack of changes, the lack of situational adjustment that I saw in the New England Patriots and the way they played, how the defense was basically in a base defense for the entire game, not really doing anything, not really doing anything exotic, not doing anything Belichick like, not doing anything Belichick's assistants like, nothing. It was just basic, I guess 4-3, 3-4, whatever defense they were running that day. It was just basic defense. You put your guys out there, put them on a man, and hope that they can stick them. That's all they were doing. There were no adjustments. You didn't see anything. And I noticed the rift between Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and I just reaffirmed that by what I was seeing. Okay? Now, this theory is not... I'm going to say this theory has the prospect of being wrong. It has the potential to be wrong. I always say that about every theory I have. It has the potential to be wrong. But I'm going to just throw it out there. I believe that Bill Belichick sabotaged the last 2 years of Brady's career. And I'm going to say it like this. I don't believe that Belichick wanted Brady during that run to the Super Bowl against Philadelphia that season. I don't think he wanted him. I don't think that he wanted to finish that out. But with them trading Jimmy Garoppolo and them not really having a backup plan to move on from Brady last year or the year after the Super Bowl when they went to the year they went to the Super Bowl against the Rams, that season they had no other options. Now we saw, I believe Jarrett Stidham was a rookie that year. I believe that was the year they drafted him. The previous season that just passed was his second season, I believe. All right, this is, I sometimes I have a hard time remember who was drafted when. Sometimes, but they didn't really have a backup plan. You wasn't going to throw Hoyer in there if you had the option between Hoyer and Brady. Sorry, you wasn't going to throw Hoyer in there, but Belichick, I believe, did what he had to do based on necessity. They had no other options. And I don't think Bill Belichick would cut off his nose to spite his face. I don't think that he would have got rid of Tom Brady with no plan after. Garoppolo was his plan. Okay? And I believe that offensively, the New England Patriots over the last 2 years have looked the worst I've ever seen them. Now, some can chalk it up to age. Some can say, well, that's because Brady is getting older. He's not really that spring chicken like he was like 10 years ago. That's is easy. See, the best lies are just covered in some of the easiest excuses that people would just eat up. The best lies are covered by the easiest excuses that people will believe. This is why I say just because something sounds crazy doesn't mean it actually is. Doesn't mean that you can't. There's no truth in it, because the best lies can be negated with excuses or negated with reasoning or anything like it. Any reasonable answer could just camouflage a lie even more, which make it harder to expose whatever it is that that someone is trying to expose. So the point I'm making, we can say that Brady got old and his play was a byproduct of him aging. That's the easy excuse to make. But Brady himself has said year after year, this is the best I've felt in a long time. He keeps saying it. For the last 2 years, he's been saying it with the new diet he's on, with the new regimen that he's working on. He comes out and he says, yeah, I didn't know that I was going to go back to this video. But he come out and he says, look, I feel better. I feel like my body is more flexible or however he says it, pliable, or whatever it is he's using. Like, he says he feels better. And usually when quarterbacks, especially when they're not feeling it, I remember, I forgot who it was. I think it was Steve McNair that said he felt a tingle in his arm one time. And he knew that, I believe it was Steve McNair. I could be wrong, but I believe it was Steve McNair. He said he felt a tingle in his arm and he knew it was time to retire. Sometimes you know when it's time to retire. You're not going to lie. When it's really your time to go, you're not going to lie to yourself. Look at Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck could have lied to himself and played another 3-4 years, possibly adding more damage to his body. It's easy for players to lie to themselves, but when your body is on the verge of completely breaking apart, I don't care what kind of mentality you have as far as dying on the field, you're not going to put your body in a position where you can literally die on the field. No one's going to do that, especially when you have a family. And I believe if Brady felt like his body really couldn't take the punishment, couldn't take another season, he would have retired. He has a family. He has a wife. He has a wife that wanted him to retire, I'm pretty sure years ago. He had a wife that wanted him to just call it quits. So if Brady has all the incentives to not play, with Belichick not wanting him, with the players becoming younger, faster, you have a Mahomes, you have a Lamar Jackson, you had a Cam Newton, but he's not the same person anymore. But you have all these young guys coming into the league who are faster than you are, who are more athletic than you are, who has time on their side right now. Everything is pushing him out the door, but he continues to play. This is what I'm saying. He wouldn't lie to himself. If everything in his life is lining up to where he would be overshadowed, or with the pressure that he's receiving from home, because I believe he's receiving pressure from home. Everything is pushing him to retire. So why would he lie to himself to keep playing? Unless he really feels like he can play longer. And over the past 2 seasons, we've seen this offense at its worst. And the easiest excuse we could make is Brady is getting old. He's not the same guy he used to be. Okay? Now, real quick, back to what I was saying. I believe that with the different offenses that they're running, with the plays that they're picking, like last year, it looked so strange. I'm not even sure if they were running the same offense. Now, some people said, well, that's because Gronkowski left and Gronkowski, there have been seasons since Gronkowski was drafted where he did not play for a majority of the year and they still found success. But Gronkowski, he was the guy that, that could pull in a double team and leave everybody else in single coverage. Gronkowski was injured a majority of his career, man. A huge part of his career he was injured. So that's not an excuse. This is why I hate when people say Brady needs Gronkowski. No. If you ask Gronk, could you have been that good anywhere else like you were in New England? That successful anywhere else? And I'm pretty sure Gronkowski would say no. This is why he wanted to play for Brady and nobody else but Brady. And if he had to come back, he's not going to play for anybody that's not on a Brady level. And he's even come out his mouth and said it. I don't want to play anywhere else, especially with the trade rumors going around a couple years ago. He said, I don't want to play for anybody else but Brady. When they were talking about Brady leaving or Gronkowski getting traded, he came out and said it himself. I don't want to play with anybody else but Brady. In my opinion, the greatest tight end we've ever seen came out and said they want to. If that guy wasn't as good as people keep saying he is because he's getting older, why would the greatest tight end we've ever seen play for nobody else but him? Some could chalk it up to loyalty, but let's be honest, man. People at the end of the day will do what's best for them. This is why Gronk left. They will do what's best for them, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with you doing what's best for you, especially when your health is on the line. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, there are no loyalty in sports. None. Loyalty is some fabricated idea that us as fans have because we love our team and we want what's best for our team. Figuratively speaking, Like, that's the only loyalty that exists is in the mind of the fans. There are no loyalty amongst players. There are no loyalty amongst organizations, coaches, nothing. Even commentators, even analysts, sports television, TV personalities. There are no loyalty in sports. So, just to get that one out the way, I don't think it was because of Gronk, the reason why he played as bad. That team looked decimated. And with N'Keal Harry being injured for the first 9 games of the season, and all the offensive linemen getting hurt, and I'm not saying Belichick had anything to do with that, but those were just setbacks. But with not re-signing certain players, like letting Chris Hogan walk, letting Danny Amendola walk 2 years ago, not bringing in, significant talent in, and a common excuse for that is, oh, well, Belichick's been doing that for years. Well, he'll just let people walk and he won't re-sign them. But Belichick has always, even if they're not the most notable players, he has always filled positions with players that could do what those people that left could do. Like when Gerard Mayo retired. When Gerard Mayo retired, I thought that was a huge hole in the linebackers position. And then eventually we were able to bring in Dante Hightower. I believe we got Dante Hightower not too long after Gerard Mayo retired. We got Dante Hightower. We slowly started to bring in all these guys. We brought in a guy like Landon Roberts, who we saw flashes from. We brought in Kyle Van Noy at some point. I mean, we were always able, when we lose like wide receivers, we were always able to recoup the wide receivers. When Wes Welker decided he wanted to go, or when whatever that situation was, he left, we had Julian Edelman, who stepped in and pretty much did the job of Wes Welker. I would even say that he did a better job than Wes Welker, but that's just my opinion. But, we've always had the knack of replacing the players that was lost with either equal or somewhere close to equal in production. Like running backs. Running backs are extremely expendable in New England because they're not dependent on, in other systems. You lose Kevin Falk. You lose Corey Dillon. You lose Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. You lose Shane Vereen, you lose Stephen Ridley, you lose all these different guys, Lawrence Maroney, what's the guy's name, LeGarrette Blount. Then you get Sony Michel, James White. You see what I'm saying? Bringing a Rex Burkhead. So he has always been able to recoup the talent. They didn't do that this year. They brought in 18 wide receivers and released all of them and traded Demaryius Thomas. Brought in 18, I believe. No. I think I'm wrong. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is an outrageous number. But Skip Bayless said they brought in 81. I could be wrong. I'm thinking it's 18. No, it's 18. All right. What the fuck? I'm dyslexic like a motherfucker right now, man. It's being in the house right now. Being in the house has got me spitting a little bit, so I'm kind of delirious. But 18. They brought in 18 receivers who you would think some of them could help, and then they just release them. They release them, and people chalk it up to that. That's just Belichick. It's just what he does. It's just what he does. What he does is he brings in players, he tries them out, and then he lets them go. But when you don't have the required parts on offense, because Like, look at the tight end situation. You have a 35-year-old plus Benjamin Watson. You have all these other guys who seriously, if you combine all the tight ends into one tight end, they're not even close to being a Pro Bowl tight end. Like, that's how bad of a group of tight ends we've had this year. Having to take offensive linemen out of free agency and throwing them in there without coaching them up or nothing. Like, just throwing them out there on the field, man. This is why the offensive line looked as bad as they did this year. I think everything that was done was to push Brady closer and closer out the door. And that's where I'm getting at with this. Everything that was done was making it so it was easier to push Brady closer and closer out the door by with the performance of the offense, you're able to convince Robert Kraft that the offense needs a change, and most likely it's the quarterback position, because Brady is in his mid-40s, and we need to move on to a younger guy that can get the job done. The fans, with New England losing in a wild card like they did, in the fashion that they did, I believe it left a sour taste in the fans' mouth. So when you move on from Brady, even though people were, sad to see Brady go, it's almost like, okay, we really didn't do much with him here, so maybe we could probably go younger and then find somebody that can, keep the dynasty at least afloat for the next, 10 years. It leaves a little bit of hope, because if Brady would have managed to get this team to the Super Bowl last year, or if this team was able to get to the Super Bowl last year, moving on from Brady would have rubbed a lot of people wrong. But the fact that they lost in a wild card in the way that they did, with the offense playing the way they did, I think it made it easy for the transition to happen. And then you had Julian Edelman out there, who was a broken man, pretty much playing wide receiver, who was the number one target, who had a lot of drops last year, and I'm going to give him a pass because he's hurt. This dude was injured all season. And any coach concerned with the well-being of their wide receiver would have sat his ass. Would have sat him down. I mean, it's nothing worse than having a wide receiver out there who is injured, who can't run the routes the way that he used to, who can't go up for the passes like he used to, who's not as reliable as he used to be because he's hurt. He's injured. He's been injured. And Edelman takes a lot of shots. So, I don't know, man. That's just a theory. I could be wrong, man. I believe I'm a lot more wrong than most people believe that I believe I am. And I am wrong a lot of times. But I believe that there was something going on behind the scenes in New England for the past couple of years, because this offense has never looked this bad. We've had this is back when Brady was younger. We had these no-name players. We didn't have anybody as close to the name recognition of a Julian Edelman. And they were able to at least sustain success. Even if they didn't win it all, they were able to sustain success with those guys. And that's because the system worked. That's because the system was perfect. But it looked like, offensively, it looked like a mess over the last couple of years. So, I don't know. And another thing, I believe the reason why we won that Super Bowl was because of the defense and the run game. I don't think people expected Sony Michel to step up the way he did going into the playoffs. And I don't think people expected the defense to play as great as they did in that Super Bowl. And the defense played phenomenal. And I can say with certainty now that defense was a huge part of us going 12-4. Now, you need some offense, but I think the defense was a huge influence on that 12-4 record. But, that's just me. I'm done.